The almighty AFL Showdown. Is this the greatest derby in AFL history? Two South Australian teams that hate each other. The Adelaide Crows, the Port Adelaide Power. But how did this rivalry really start? Let's dig into it.
Shook to the ball! Sensational grab from Jay Shooks. It's on in the middle, jumpers are being ripped off. Little fracas are breaking out everywhere. Pettigrews trying to wind up with a couple.
Despite the first derby being in 1997, the feud dates back way before then. The Showdown's intense rivalry can be traced back all the way to Port Adelaide's pre-existing rivalries with fellow SANFL club, Norwood. Now, Norwood will come up quite a bit. Long story short, all throughout time, Port Adelaide have dominated the SANFL and thus had rivalries with other SANFL teams. And because of this dominance from Port Adelaide, there was a notion that it was sort of Port Adelaide against the rest. Now comes the real problem, an AFL license. All the way back in 1982, the SANFL approached the VFL trying to enter two of their South Australian clubs, Norwood and Port Adelaide. It was ignored, but they kept trying. Now, in 1982, unfortunately, because Port Adelaide failed to enter the VFL, they recorded heaps of debt and just a lot of doubt for their future. Now, Port Adelaide existed long before Adelaide. In fact, the Adelaide Football Club was only registered in the SANFL in 1986. Up until 1990, there was a lot of back and forth trying to get a license for the VFL, trying to expand. And just before 1990, the SANFL clubs were recording a lot of losses, so something had to happen. Now, Port Adelaide chose to very secretly try and enter the AFL. They didn't tell any other clubs that they were trying to get this license. And subsequently, all the other SANFL clubs felt very betrayed, which, you know, it's understandable. In fact, the clubs of Glenelg and Norwood tried to urge the SANFL president to make an injunction against the bid, which he obviously agreed to. And the year after, in 1991, it was not Port Adelaide, rather this new Adelaide Football Club that entered the AFL. And this is where the rivalry truly happened. Now, for Port Adelaide fans, their club was taking that opportunity away from them because of this Adelaide Football Club. 3 years later, in 1994, the AFL announced that South Australia would gain a second AFL license. Major bids coming from Port Adelaide, and then merger clubs proposals from Norwood Sturt and Glenelg South. Unfortunately for Port Adelaide, despite winning the grand final and being preferred over the merger clubs, they were prevented from entering the competition before 1996, which was stipulated in the Adelaide License Agreement. Another trick to the story and another reason why this rivalry goes so much deeper than what people think. And in 1995, it was announced that Port Adelaide would be participating in the 1997 AFL season, which is 6 years later than what Adelaide were. And given all the history of Port Adelaide and all the success in the SANFL, you can understand why there's a bitter hatred between the two. And so, the feud in the AFL truly begins. And we see, as Malcolm Blight says, the greatest AFL rivalry, the Showdown. There have been a multitude of crazy Showdown games, and we just know there's going to continue being so. In 1997, in round 4, we saw Port Adelaide win away from home in a cracking game. Modric kicking 7, Rashudo Baston. In round 5, 2002, we also saw Port Adelaide away from home defeating their rivals Adelaide by 8 points.
Underneath it takes the mark for Port Adelaide. And there is the siren to signal a famous victory for the Port Adelaide Football Club. 28 points down in this contest. They were struggling at half-time. They've come out in the second half and kicked 8 goals to 3.
Then we have the 2005 semi-final, where Adelaide demolished Port Adelaide 123 to 40 points. Perhaps not as good as the game in round 3 in 2008, which saw Adelaide at home defeat Port Adelaide by a goal.
Chips it wide to McLeod. One of the greatest wins in the Adelaide Crows history. In Showdown 24, it was a classic. They'll shoot this one into space. This was one of the showcase games of 2008, if not the last 150 years. The Adelaide Crows, down to just 20 men, hold on to win 85 to 79.
But the Showdowns keep getting better. In round 19 in 2013, Port Adelaide won away from home by 4 points. And, well, let's just watch what happened.
Boat shot, boat brilliant, winds, Montfort Humphries centering ball. Cassisi. Willard. You know who again.
It is his birthday.
Reckon it rests on his boot. What a champion he is. He's 19 years of age.
It's all over. Pittard's long kick has gone out of bounds on the full, and what a historic victory.
One of the craziest bounces in history, Humphries was an absolute mammoth that game. Or how about in 2015, round 16, where Adelaide won just by 3 points, and this match had a lot of added significance due to the recent death at the time of the Crows coach Phil Walsh. Thus, 53,518 attendees went to the game, and that was the largest attendance since 1973.
In the closest match in the history of the two clubs, Adelaide win by 3 points. They're in the 8.
Now, in recent time, I honestly think every single Showdown game has some storyline. Whether it's close, a massive margin, there's always something going on. In round 8 in 2018, we saw Adelaide lose by 5 points to Port Adelaide. Arguably the greatest last 5 minutes of a game I have seen.
And it goes Adelaide's way, but they're ready. Howard pumps it in. They've got the outnumber. They all crash down. Flashpoint. Stevie Modlow. What a time! He is floating on air now. Stevie Modlow. Those are going to find something. They can't. Seaman on the charge. The siren sounds. The sweet siren for Port Adelaide. Showdown 44 is over.
And it's crazy that that same year we saw one of the closest games in their recent rivalry, Adelaide winning by 3 points this time. And this was the controversial Josh Jenkins goal, where he admitted afterwards that despite being given a goal, it hit the post.
Josh Jenkins, a metre he takes, and then 15 with the kick. Can he go again? Can he go again? Josh Jenkins, JJ, Jerker, whatever you want to call him. Get ready for a big roar with Rory. Doesn't matter if he kicks the goal. Another extraordinary showdown.
You weren't confident?
My grandma raised me not to tell fibs. I think it hit the post, but I'm pretty happy that they didn't think so.
And even last year in round 3, despite Port Adelaide's success the years before, Adelaide came to a triumphant win by 4 points, thanks to a goal after the siren from new recruit Jordan Dawson.
Goes short, hinge, it's a good looking kick, almost for Shelley. Murphy, covered, he did! And to cover himself in glory, just coming back, and got there! The scenes at the Adelaide Oval!
Now, as of recording, they're about to play another showdown. So by the time I posted this, that might have been the craziest game yet. Now, as you can see, as I'm scrolling, this just shows who's won every single showdown. Now, you can see on the far right that Port Adelaide have the wood over Adelaide for the majority of them. In fact, they get to +6 wins over Adelaide. Then Adelaide start to come back, and eventually by 2008, it's even. They've won the same amount of showdowns. But Port Adelaide, they go on another little streak, getting up to over 4 wins of Adelaide. Adelaide crawl back, eventually getting having 2 extra wins, showdown wins. And now we're seeing Port Adelaide come back all the way up to where Port Adelaide only have a +1 showdown win. Now that is crazy. So if Adelaide win this round 20 as of recording, it's even. And you don't see that with rivalries. It's crazy to think that this rivalry really has been brewing since both teams win the AFL. And when you look at other sort of interstate rivalries, the Sydney GWS, the Q Clash, a couple other rivalries, they only only start when they're both in the AFL, but the fact there's so many little things, like all the licensing stuff behind this rivalry, it makes it something else. And it really shows why they really hate each other. So the question is, do you think this is the greatest rivalry in the AFL? Yes, it doesn't have all the years that Carlton and Collingwood's rivalry has brewed. Yes, it doesn't have, the same years that maybe a St Kilda or someone have been in the AFL, so they haven't had that luxury of the time. But whilst both being in the AFL and even before that in the SANFL, has this been the best rivalry since? I honestly think it could be.